All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to my weekly live chat, Help Me Data Geek. Today, we're going to be talking about the hardest skill for a data geek to learn. I use the term data geek as kind of an umbrella term for anybody that's a data engineer, a data analyst, or a data scientist, because I think it applies in all these scenarios here. I actually have some slides. Let me pull those up now. Everyone, welcome to Okay, and here we go. So I'm titling these slides Skills Every Data Geek Needs to Learn, and we'll talk about a few things. The first one are the skill categories. So what are the different things or categories of skills that you should have as a data geek? Then the easy stuff versus the hard stuff. So in those categories, what really is the breakdown of the stuff that will come to be easy for you and things that'll be harder. Depending on where you're at career, this may be an aha moment, or if you're new to it, you'd be like, oh, okay. So as you progress in your career, you can focus on those things. Then we'll get into the hardest skill, what I think that is, and in my experience, I've been in this industry almost 20 years. I've hired, dozens of people, and this to me is the one that actually is a big differentiator in folks. And then I'll give you some more resources that you can dig deeper on and learn, after this session here is over. If you have questions while this is going on, go ahead and post them in the chat room on the channel, and I'll check here at the end of it, and we'll answer any questions you might have. Okay, so let's get going. The first one are skill categories. So one skill category that's obvious are your tech skills. And so if you're a data engineer and you're trying to move data around or cleanse data, anything like that, I talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. And I think, this is where you're really going to focus on your programming languages. So Python, or if you have a tool like Informatica or SSIS or whatever, this is where your tech skills really are going to shine. This is, kind of your bread and butter, right? This is what actually kind of makes the bacon, so to speak. And this is how you'll actually kind of provide value to an organization a lot of times. If you're on the data science side, you're probably using tools like R or maybe Python as well. And if you're a data analyst, you're probably some kind of mix of everything, right? SQL, Python, Tableau, D3, whatever the case may be. The other one, and this is a big one, are the behavioral skills. And behavioral skills are about how you'll fit in the team and how you'll fit in the company. In situations where I'm hiring people, the most important thing I feel, especially once we have a good team going, is kind of the DNA of the team itself. And if you're coming in, are you going to mesh with the rest of the folks on the team? Because if you're going to come in and kind of upset the apple cart there, it's not going to be worth it. I don't care how good of a data visualization artist or data engineer, data scientist you are, it doesn't matter, because a team is going to produce and add a lot more value to the company rather than just a single individual. So behavioral skills, things like how you talk to people and how you present ideas, all those things are paramount. And then subject matter expertise. This one might be difficult if you're in a new industry or you're going into a new industry, trying to understand that industry and that business and what it's about. One way that's interesting, I know a few folks that became data analysts because they were such fans of the companies and what they do that they ended up getting a job there, kind of a low-level thing. And then over time, they figured out what they really liked doing, and it was data stuff, and that's how they actually led to become a data analyst for that company. And at that point, what's really interesting is that their tech skills may be lacking, but their subject matter expertise and probably their behavioral skills are through the roof, right? Because they know the company, they know the industry, and if they're successful and they're already working there, chances are they're a decent person to work with and fit well within the culture of the company. So you don't have to have all three to be stellar here. You can develop them over time. And the behavioral skills is one that's kind of tough because it's kind of like, do you fit in? And if you are going to a certain kind of company, that culture and you really need to mesh. Otherwise, nothing else will matter, right? You'll never feel like you really belong and you can be successful and kind of do your best work there. So, these things are all important, and I wanted to lay them out kind of like this so you can kind of think, all right, so what should I focus on, right? What are the things that are important here? Now let's talk about the easy stuff versus the hard stuff. And these are just things that throughout my years I've seen pop up, and things that are always hard and things that, are honestly quite easy when you think about it. So on the left, first, I would say writing code. Telling machines what to do is the simplest part of your job. It may seem, if don't have the skills yet or the experience, like a daunting thing, right? How do I get this chart to look a certain way? Or how do I get the data into the format I want? And those are tough. Yeah, granted, no doubt. But somebody's done it before. Chances are you're not doing something that is so groundbreaking no one in the world has ever posted about it online. Some other Pluralsight authors and I joke about writing a book about copying and pasting from Stack Overflow, because that's essentially, you can copy and paste your way into getting your code written. Not to say it's the best approach, but you can get it done. So this actually turns out to be one of the easier things in your career to do. The other one I would say is problem solving. When you're solving something here, and again, technically, and you're looking at a problem and trying to figure it out, this is actually some of the most interesting work as a data geek, because really this is where you take all of your experiences, all of your intuition, your creativity, and you get to apply that with your technical skills, right? It's really the nexus of it. This is a beautiful, one of my favorite things about this job. And so this, though, again, comes down to being something that, because it's so fun to do, it actually turns out to be the easy stuff. So solving problems is fun and easy, and that's great. The next one is building apps. So along the similar line of writing code, when it comes down to actually building something, whether that's an exploratory view of a dashboard or some other type of application to allow users to work with data, whatever the case may be, again, you're working with machines. And machines are easy to control, right? You can tell them exactly what to do, and they behave consistently every single time. The next one is squashing bugs. So yeah, bugs occur. We write bad code. We copy and paste a lot of funky stuff sometimes, and it comes up with little unexpected behaviors. And again, you can find it, you can troubleshoot it, you can solve the problem, you can get it done. This is stuff that, given time, is no doubt you'll succeed. Now the hard stuff, the first one is estimating the level of effort. So a lot of times when you're doing project work, one of the questions a project manager or product manager or whatever you want to call them at your company will ask you is, how long is this going to take? Give me an estimated level of effort on, let's say, a relative scale, 1 to 5. How hard is it? Is it a 1 or is it a 5? Even some terms you'll hear is like shirt sizing. Is it small, medium, or large? What is the level of effort here? And this is where humans are just bad at predicting the future. So what you end up with is trying to figure out exactly how hard something will be without knowing all the details yet. Because, God forbid that somebody actually did a ton of detailed requirements gathering and gave you a very detailed spec of what you need to build, which is kind of a relic of the old days. And I kind of look at this as like if you ever do any projects around your house where as soon as you open up that wall to replace something, you don't know what you're going to find. So this becomes incredibly difficult. Now, as you grow and as you get more kind of reps in with your company and you know more about those products and the technologies you're working with and the systems, then this becomes a bit easier, but there's still a lot of kind of hidden things that could snag it up. So estimating becomes really hard. And being a good teammate. A lot of us, depending on your company culture, I would say a lot of companies still have this weird fascination with incentivizing people individually. So you as an individual have some sort of goal, some sort of metric assigned to your job, and maybe you're incentivized. Maybe you get money or a bonus or whatever. And that's really unhealthy, because what you're doing then is incentivizing people to look out for themselves first. And so I've always tried in a lot of my roles, especially when I've been in management, to kind of hack the system here and encourage people to be a good teammate. And the way I would do that is, tangibly, is to set team-related goals. If Kobe scores 80 points but you still lose the game, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how good you do if your team doesn't achieve what it's there to do. So being a good teammate, helping other people solve problems when they're stuck, all of that stuff becomes tough, especially if you're in a company that doesn't value it. And if you're a company and you have individual goals assigned to people, then I would say you don't value teamwork. Maybe that's a bold statement, and if you want to talk about it later, I'd be happy to. But I've spent many years in this space, and I can tell you, having a good team is so much more valuable, and people react to the incentives that are given to them. They're human nature. Another one is simplifying ideas, and this leads into a little bit to what I'm going to talk about next. And this is just the idea that you may have some incredibly complex, beautiful algorithm system, but to a user, they click a button and then they see something happen. So simplifying the idea of why something took so long or why something was important is a challenge. It's hard, and I would say this is where you get into what makes the difference between senior and junior data geeks. Next is presenting to an audience. As a coder, as a technologist, as we used to call ourselves, as somebody that likes working with machines more than people, this is tough. I somehow have this weird obsession with getting in front of as many people as I can and talking, but most people aren't like that. Most people, they're terrified of this. I think, when I was in college, one of the professors told me, the trick is that people get up there and they're really worried about how they look or this or that. And honestly, nobody cares about you when you're giving a presentation. And as soon as you realize, it doesn't matter, no one cares if your hair's a little messed up, and it's all about the message and the information you're sharing, then that fear starts to subside. So that's what helped me. But this is something that's tough for a lot of folks. And I guess the more seasoned you get and the more senior you get in the company, you just have to do it more and more. So this leads into the hardest skill. And the hardest skill to learn, and you may not like this, is sales. And the question is why? Why is sales the thing? And my answer is because no matter how great your idea, if no one listens, it won't make any difference. So the point is that selling your ideas, if they're great, is just as important as having a great idea in the first place. There are few companies I know of that have a culture where, the work stands on its own. Because a lot of times you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different types of people, and people don't read and process code the way computers do. So even though you may have some fantastic algorithm or some fantastic design of something, unless you can communicate and sell that idea, then it won't matter. And sales, just an aside here, sales isn't about actually just convincing somebody to, buy something or do something they don't want to do. Sales is about building relationships with people. And when those opportunities are there and you have something that will help them, presenting it in a way that lets them decide objectively and kind of willfully to use your service or whatever. I talk about this a lot, where I think data teams need to think of themselves as an external group selling their products and services to the company. Even though you may be fully employed and maybe you have processes in place that force people to use you, you should be treating every person that accesses a dashboard or asks for help or does any of the things, the interactions you have with them, as a customer. Because it's not hard for them to fire up a credit card and get an external analytics solution. So you're competing with legit products and team companies that have growth, marketing, all that stuff. So, sales is actually probably, I think, one of the most important skills of being a data geek. And it's hard. It's extremely hard. I was real lucky when I started out in the late 90s at MCI that my first 3 months I was actually selling. Before I went over to the tech side, I was doing outbound telemarketing sales, which don't exist today, but back then that was the thing. And the training I got, which was a 3-week sales training boot camp, and then the subsequent 500 phone calls a day that I would make, and the 900 rejections I would take before I'd actually get a sale, that really toughened my skin and helped me realize how to communicate better with people and how to offer them something that they want, instead of just trying to force something down their throat that I want to sell them. So That is the hardest thing. And there's kind of a spectrum here. I made a little diagram to kind of explain this. So on the left side, you have your pure code. And this is where it's just, hey, I submitted, I committed something to a branch and whatever, that's it. That's as far as I go. And then on the other side, it's pure sales. So where it's like, hey, I actually don't have anything yet, but here's this beautiful idea, and you should, fire up a project, and we should spend 6 months building it because it's going to change the world, even though I don't have anything legit yet. I haven't even done an experiment, a prototype, any of that stuff. And as a data geek, you want to be kind of in between those two, right? Because you need to have something that's real. That's where those technical skills come in. But you also want to communicate that and get people on board and get people, supporting your idea before it becomes a major thing. So by the time it takes the real hard work happens and the real kind of heavy lifting and implementations and all that, everybody's on board with it. You've got adoption and people are looking forward to it. So this is where, I talk about data teams having an actual growth hacker on their team, somebody that sort of does their internal marketing and sales for them. And so this is, where I think a lot of people could grow, because I don't see a ton of people on the sales side. I see a lot of people on the pure code side. But if you can kind of elevate there, that's how you're going to become a senior leader. Because a lot of what senior leadership in the data field is taking ideas that are incredible and are going to add a ton of value to a company and presenting those to other managers, VPs, C-level folks, and getting them on board. So it's basically a sales job, but you're selling data products that your team is building and ideas. So, and it sucks for that to be 100% of your job, but, having some more of it than you probably have now is going to be a real good thing and serve you a long time. So where to go for more? I have a course on Pluralsight, which is data analytics hands-on. And in there, I talk about presenting information, even designing slides, which is kind of the very tangible, way to do it more effectively than probably how you are doing it now. There's a great TED Talk by Ernesto Cerulli called Shut Up and Listen. I think that's the title of it. And he's his company, the Cerulli Institute, is an entrepreneurship company, and what they do is they provide guidance and support to entrepreneurs all around the world. And he has an interesting approach, and he talks about if you really want to help somebody, you should have a kind of a 90-10 rule where you're listening 90% of the time and talking 10% of the time, because people know what they want to do, right? If you're working with a customer in sales, marketing, whatever, they have the product team is trying to push something. They know what they want to do. They want to sell the thing. They want to increase this or that, whatever. So you don't need to come to them with an idea of what they want to do. You need to listen to them and understand how you can better support them and help them. And when you do that, the conversation is going to change, and they're going to start coming to you. And that's really powerful. That's when a data team really starts to add a lot of value to a company. Okay, I've got some books to recommend, and I've created some short links for you here. bensullins.com/storytellingdata. This is a book by Cole Nussbauer-Kniff, if I remember her last name. Sorry, Cole. She has a great book called Storytelling with Data. She has a website by that title as well. She is fantastic, and she talks a lot about this idea of really kind of taking your data project that last mile and communicating it in a way that really incites kind of inspiration and action. And another one is a book called Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. This is the only book that I've actually ever read cover to cover without putting it down. I was actually at a Duarte training session up in Mountain View, which is a fantastic 2-day seminar, 4-day seminar, depending on which one you go to, if you get a chance. They're like the Apple of presentation design, if that makes sense. But you can go here, bensullins.com/prezo-zen, and it'll link you over to Amazon, where he has his book Presentation Zen, and talks a lot about how to design presentations, how to move people with your message, and how to really, inspire action, which again is the point. If nobody's acting on the data or the analysis that you're doing, then it's wasted. So let's try to not waste it. All right, I'm going to go over and see if we have any questions now. All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions. I appreciate everyone for watching, and if you're watching this on replay and want to get a hold of me, I'm at Ben Sullins on Twitter, or you can reach me at help@bensullins.com. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you back here soon.